Welcome back to the Four Chains. Now today is a video that I hope will be very important to you, which is how to run a profitable pizza business. We have a lot of requests for videos, and we're going to incorporate some of those requests today. And yes, at the end of the shout out, if you are a subscriber to the Four Chains YouTube channel and you let us know in the comments of any one of our videos that you want to shout out, we will do those shout outs, and we're going to do them at the end of this video, particularly at the end of this video, because we're going to incorporate a lot of people's suggestions into profit. Now, if you are part of our Patreon consulting page, on there I've written manuals on marketing, building sales. I've written manuals on building and retaining the winning team. We've got manuals there on food, on labor. We've got winning strategies for restaurant management. Why are we doing profit before those? Because we don't even have a manual that's specifically focused on profit. Well, the reason is because, yes, I obsess over food, I obsess over labor, I obsess over all of these things, but I'm still aware that every statistic in the restaurant industry, and you should be aware of it, is a supporting statistic. Every statistic is a supporting statistic except for one. How much money are you making? Everybody has their theories about what is a good restaurant, what compiles running a good restaurant, what's the most important things. But when the profit and loss statements come out, we find out who's right. Why am I qualified to do this manual? I just recently found the last P&L I ever had as a general manager. We'll put that up for you on the screen. I'll show you the labor. I'll show you the sales, some of the things that go into it, and then the profit percent and the profit dollar. I think I have a pretty secure reputation. People have worked with me in Team Washington particularly, and then when I was in Dallas, of creating what I call long ball profit. Anybody can cut corners and run profit for a period of 3 or 6 months, but what the real task is running the kind of profit that will make you profitable in the long run, that will continue to build a restaurant that is profitable over the course of a year, 2 years, and moving forward. And I've had a lot of success with that. And what I really want to do now with this YouTube channel is make it so you guys can have a similar level of success. Profit today in late 2022, and certainly is going to be true through 2023. Profit today has some competing pulling forces. On the one hand, sales are generally up, particularly for pizza restaurants, and food cost and labor cost are also up. And, people who own restaurants have realized that they can get away with increasing their delivery charge. Obviously, if you're working for a franchise, particularly if it's Domino's, you might have a franchisee that is convinced that $1.99 or $2.99 delivery charge is the way to go. But what they are going to realize eventually is that you look at Uber Eats, you look at Grubhub, they split it off between delivery charge and service charge, but it's the exact same thing. In Domino's, we only have delivery charge, but I saw one of my Domino's employees, they ordered a kid's meal. It just had a cheeseburger, a small fries, and a small soda, and they paid $20.85 to have it delivered. And they were under the impression that they were getting free delivery because they paid $9.95 a month or something like that. It's the aggregators are charging way more than the individual stores, so there's some room to grow there. Stores have raised their prices. We have yet to get to the point where, as a general rule, stores are losing sales because their prices are too high. So we have higher sales, higher prices, higher delivery charge that is combating the higher wages, and I say wages, not minimum wage, because when the minimum wage is higher, you still need to have that opportunity tree. So basically that puts up the wages of everybody, and it's essentially a wash. Now, you can comment in the thing if your situation is unique. Obviously, if you're in Seattle and minimum wage is God knows what now, $17.50 or something like that, it's a very difficult situation. But in general, it's a wash. And so the question is, why is profit generally down around the industry? Now, obviously, there's exceptions to every rule. If you have a restaurant where the manager was poor and then you step in and you have a manager who's great, then profit will be way up. One of the rules that's always been true, the restaurant industry is always changing, but one of the rules that's always been true is there's almost never a bad store. Yeah, a franchisee might make a bad decision on a location or something like that, but in general, there's not bad stores, they're just bad managers. And I think anybody that's been in the industry for a long time has seen stores that have not been able to make money, and then all of a sudden a great manager's in there and they're kicking butt. So here's another thing that's going on. I can't speak as well for other pizza chains or other restaurants, but excuse me. We have like 50 tools to increase profit. No matter what a tool is that a company gives you, whether it's to help sales or help labor or help food, it's all designed to help profit because, as I said, everything's supporting statistic but profit. We have 50 tools that we did not have in the 80s and the 90s. So why is it not being a universal success? Well, it can be. Those tools can be incredibly useful if you don't lose sight of the things that originally made your restaurant have a profit margin of 20% or higher. You still need to put the same energy into the things that made you 20% profit, and then if you have some left over, they can go for the new things. But the things that made successful restaurants 15, 20 years ago are still the things that make successful restaurants today. Yes, for those of you who are wondering, water does taste better if it's in a Darth Vader glass and you put a little bit of watermelon in it, okay? So, okay. I'm going to give you there's basically three steps to increasing profit. The way I'm doing this here is, normally this is a speech. Excuse me. Normally this is a speech that I give to, when I visit other franchises or restaurants or companies, and I do it with a PowerPoint. You'll see the PowerPoint on the video, but me standing here, I just have it to my left here. So I'll try to follow along with it. The number one step that you can do to increase profit is to increase your customer base. Now, that may sound like sales, and it is an important thing in terms of sales. It's the amount of customers that you have. If you are going to increase your customer base, you're increasing the amount of customers that ordered from you. The second step is to increase your RPC. Now, if you don't know what the acronym RPC is, that makes sense because I just made it up. I mean, maybe somebody else has thought of it before me. I don't know. If that case, I guess I didn't make it up. Maybe I heard it somewhere. But I was looking for a phrase to focus on the amount of money you get from each customer. RPC, revenue per customer. And then the third step is increase your CM. I did not make that up. CM is contribution margin. And contribution margin is your sales minus your variable costs. Now, variable cost is an accountant term, but if you are a manager, then you should know that variable costs are costs that are in your control. Management costs that you, if you're bad, go up, and if you're good, those costs go down. So let's start with number one, increasing your customer base. Think of this as local store marketing. One of the things that I think that has happened because of the internet is the acceptance of complaining as a and accepted human behavior. I really think complaining's a waste. I mean, in most situations, complaining is a waste because you're complaining about things for the most part that you cannot control. When I hear general managers or supervisors complaining about their sales, generally they're not complaining about their role in the sales of their business or businesses. They're complaining about television commercials or the lack of television commercials or offers, coupons that should be better, that kind of thing. Things that are, or, you know, the weather or some sort of business circumstance that happened. Your mental energy should not be wasted on that. Your mental energy should be focused on the stuff that you can control. So as a manager, and yeah, this video is kind of focused towards managers, but if you're a supervisor, these are the things that you should have your managers focus. If you're a franchisee, these are the things you should have your manager focus on. So if you're a manager, I would have 3 focuses. Yeah, we do have a marketing video that we distribute to our consulting Patreons, and I'm not going to get into all of that. We have 33 things to focus on. In this video, I'm just going to focus on 3. Number 1 is your businesses. I got to give all the credit to Dan the Pizza Man, Dan Gliga. He is a guy who was a driver, but very cross-trained. He was a decent pizza maker, and he was a real team player, and various people kept pushing him to manage, and he didn't want to do it. But when I spoke to him, he told me the only store I would ever want to manage is Beltsville, Maryland. The reason why this is so noteworthy, and it's been decades, but I still remember this conversation, is because Beltsville, Maryland was a store that did not profit. The main reason it didn't profit is because its lunch sales were so low. They would do, on a Monday, they might do $75, $80. On a Friday, they might crush it and do $150, $175. But what winds up happening is that you go into the dinner rush and you've spent more on labor, certainly more on just labor and food than you have in sales. And so you're playing catch up during the dinner rush, and generally that store did not catch up. That was a store that certain assistant managers would turn down being offered a general manager position because they thought they'd get stuck there and they wouldn't have success. But Dan was a driver there for a long time, and he understood that he could make it profitable. So as soon as he became manager, he spent 2 weeks, ran really bad lunch labor, but boy, oh boy, did it pay off. He went around to every business, and there were a lot of businesses. Beltsville, for those who aren't aware, it's in Prince George's County, Maryland. And he introduced himself. I'm Dan the Pizza Man. He would give him a menu. He'd give him a magnet, maybe a cup, you know. And he would say, if you want, you know, you need pizza, just ask for me. I'll hook you up. I work every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And just 2 weeks of that went from being the lowest sales of lunch in the entire company to being #1 in Prince George's County, Maryland. Just those 2 weeks. He did those 2 weeks, and then he gave him good service and products, and he held on to those sales. So I would do that. If you are in a staffing situation where you can't go while you're open and you have to go before you open, just tape the menus to the doors. Find a way maybe after the lunch rush to visit those stores and introduce yourself. But something about the process of introducing yourself as the manager, that personal connection makes a huge difference. The next thing that you should tackle is schools. The reason why I would say schools is it is the biggest bang for your buck that you will do. Every store I ever managed, the first thing I did was visit all the schools. Now, this is how I visit them. You are, of course, not allowed to put flyers in the boxes of teachers. It's against the rule at every school in the world. Guess what? Don't tell anybody that I told you this, okay? If you show up with dessert items, and the reason why I do dessert items, like Domino's, it would be lava cakes or marble cookie brownies, is they tend to have a bigger shelf life, okay? You show up, and the people working in the office, you give them lava cakes, marble cookie brownies, whatever you happen to have, And then ask them if you could put these flyers so that, and then put it this way. Hey, we've got some deals that can really save your school and the teachers a lot of money. Would you mind if I put these flyers in the box? They say yes. They say yes 98% of the time, and it's worth it. And then you try to get an introduction to the key people, the drama teacher who's, directs the school plays, the athletic director, the principal. Just introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm not here selling anything. Of course, that's total bullshit. You're selling something. But just say, I really, the schools are the backbone of our community. And even if you're a bad person, you don't care about the schools, you tell them this. The schools are the backbone of our community. If there's anything I can do to help, my school did so much for me and is the reason why I'm here today. And if you guys run into a situation where you need a fundraiser, here's my card, give me a call. I'll tell you a quick story of how, this one visit to this one high school in Falls Church, Virginia, may have been the reason why I won Manager of the Year that I won, because I said that, I got no response. I got a call 2 months later from the drama teacher who directs the plays. They were doing Wizard of Oz, and there's this place in Richmond where they buy the costumes for the Cowardly Lion and all these other stuff, and it was a lot of money that they didn't have in the budget, and they asked if there's any way I can help. Well, I said, of course I can help. So this is what I say. We had 4 weeks. So I said, it will be blank high school night on Monday. You make it a Monday because that's when your sales are slowest. We will have it every night, and every single person that calls and orders, we will put an item on their order, and that item is worth $1, okay? And then at the end of the night, we print out how many of those items that we sold, and we will donate that amount of money to you. And they said, well, how do I know anybody's going to call? So I gave them, I'm so generous, I gave them the flyers that explained all of the rules. They gave it to every homeroom teacher who passed it out to every single high school student, explaining to their parents. What percentage of those kids do you think went home and said, Mom, there's a fundraiser for school. Can we order Domino's tonight? Now, I can tell you that first Monday, I got in an enormous amount of trouble. It was a record Monday by a lot, but one extra CSR, customer service representative, and one extra driver will not do it for this. So they did it. They did it 4 weeks in a row. We had 4 record weeks in a row, record period, record profit. They gave us a full-page ad thanking us in the program. They had me come to Wizard of Oz, and they announced that I was there, and I stood up to a round of applause. Listen, man, all it was winning me awards and giving me a giant bonus check. But it gave me this positive reputation at the school that just never left. So whatever you do that stuff with the schools. So, let me say one thing about businesses, specifically about hotels. Don't give hotels free pizza or whatever you serve, because there is no incentive for them to tell their guests to order from you. This is what you do. You get a color Xerox, you make up dollar bills that have your face, the face of the manager, on the place of George Washington. You make colored copies of it, and you give it to your drivers. Every time they deliver to a hotel, 1 per order, not 1 per pizza, you give $1 to the front desk person, say, hey, thanks for referring this customer. You can use this as cash for your next order. You give them all a flyer explaining the program, that they can't use these dollars at home. They can only use it for the hotel. Believe me, I learned that lesson the wrong way. If you want to know in the comments how we can avoid being scammed, them making copies of it, I will let you know. But that gives them incentive, and that just turbocharged my hotel orders, okay? So businesses, schools, and then residences. Wahid, in the last video we made about Wahid Asim, the greatest pizza maker of all time, you can see our channel, cheap plug. He said, people used to put door hangers on doors, and they don't do that anymore. When you're slow at your store, and you're complaining about the fact that there's nothing to do, there probably is. There's probably 100 things you can clean, but let's just think you believe that. Particularly in the afternoon between the lunch and dinner rush, why don't you send somebody out to put flyers on doors? Start with apartments. That's the easiest. You would be shocked at the percentage of people in your delivery area that have absolutely no idea that you exist. You'd be shocked. So get those flyers on. And all of these things that you do to increase your customer base, please watch our pizza making videos on how to top pizzas, how to make pizzas, how to make sides. If you don't give them a good product, none of this is going to matter because they're only going to order from you once, and you'll be one of those flash in the pans that looks good for a few months and then is out. Okay, let's talk about the second tip. RPC, revenue per customer. There's two ways to increase your revenue per customer. Increase how often they order, and increase how much they order when they do order. Let's talk a little bit about both of them. The number one way to increase the amount of times these customers order, don't lose them. Customer service. Customer service. The customer is always right. Now, I know there's even a Facebook forum, Tip the Pizza Guy, where basically there's a lot of posts about drivers posting rants about poor tips. Listen, if you're delivering, sometimes they'll tip you, sometimes they won't. Sometimes your tips will be good, sometimes they'll be bad. I was a driver for 6 years, driver of the year twice. It all evens out in the end. So, and yeah, it's still not fun for me, even as, you know, in my position, I still deliver pizzas to not get tips. So I'm not saying, but you need to understand that the comments that people make when drivers post about a bad tip, or they'll post a text exchange where they just laid into a customer, calling them cheap or calling them names or whatever, they're bragging about how their manager had their back, and then all the drivers are saying, "Oh, that's so great, that's so great." It's not. It's not, because when people are mad at a business, they tell 10 people. When people love a business, they might tell 1 or 2 or 3. But if they're mad at a business, they tell at least 10. Your total amount of deliveries will drop. You are giving up the opportunity to deliver to somebody else who will tip. It's much better to try to kill them with kindness and try to win over that tip than to react the way that you're doing. Customer service will bring them back. Do that special team. Here's something that people don't understand. Customers may order because of an offer or being familiar with a company. Repeat customers don't order from stores. They order from the team that works in those stores. I want to give a shout out to Hard Road in Columbus, Ohio. You know, they are really getting it, and they're seeing the sales increases that they should because of it. They have a customer named Carole King. For those of you who don't know, Carole King's a singer-songwriter. She wrote the song "You Got a Friend." It's probably her most famous song. When she comes in, sweetest young lady, comes in every Friday. The crew sings to her. They sing that song. When you don't want to hear me saying, "When you call out my name, you know wherever I am, I'll keep running to see you again." And they sing it, and she posted on social media about how much it means. And you look over to her, and she's just like holding her heart. She's so touched by this. Nobody's stopping what they're doing. We're still making pizzas and whatever. You can sing while you're doing all of that except for answering the phone. That's just the kind of touch that really makes a difference. Treat every customer like they're your only customer. I think managers and employees lose sight of the fact that you have a finite amount of customers. Every time you lose a customer because of bad product or bad service or just indifference, you know, to them, you are lessening your sales. You are lessening your opportunity to profit. Please treat every customer like they're precious. So, you know, and then I would also say, you sell food. Now, I know we're talking about product, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the condition of your store. The condition of your store. Customers don't separate the way your lobby looks or the way something looks and pick out anything that doesn't actually touch the food from the food. They don't separate what your employees look like when they're in the store. If they look dirty, they associate the store of being dirty. You sell food. Your store, your bathroom, your employees need to be clean so people can trust that your food is safe and delicious to eat. That's how you get repeat customers, okay? Now, the other thing you need to understand, and this is more focused on delivery restaurants, but understand what makes your business model unique. The reason why I bring this up is I've never heard anybody talk about this but me. I talk about it when I teach new employee orientation class. I talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but this is what you have to understand. We are asking a customer to open the door of their house or apartment where they keep their family safe. We're asking a teacher to open the door of the school where they keep their kids safe, or a business from opening the door where they keep their employees safe. You want them to feel comfortable with that. And that is the unsung reason why mom and pop struggle to compete against restaurants like Domino's. Domino's understands it's important. Take a look at a mom and pop driver, or probably a Grubhub or an Uber Eats driver. They smell like cigarettes. They look dirty. They're unshaven. Customers may not say out loud, when that guy delivered to my house, I felt a little uncomfortable, so I decided not to order anymore. They may not say that out loud or even understand that's why, but it's a total experience, and you want the moment they open their door to you to be a winning moment. Domino's just recently changed their uniforms. I'm just going to tell you right out, I don't think these uniforms are as attractive as the old black uniforms, but I know why Domino's did it. Because it doesn't matter. Number one, it puts people in a position where they have to buy new uniforms, and that's a good thing. Because stores, particularly stores struggling for profit, and if you're watching this video, you won't be by the end, they're hesitant to buy new uniforms when that one, at least on a practical sense, still works in their opinion. What's important is that it's a consistent look. They know what the look is when they open their door. That when they see somebody approaching their door, they know that's the Domino's person or the Pizza Hut person or the Papa John's person, whatever it is, they are comfortable with that. Generally, when a mom and pop pizza delivery place sends somebody to deliver, they just look like anybody. They could be there to rob your house. They could be there to ask you to join their religion or to buy whatever they're selling or vote for a politician. But when the Domino's driver's coming up, you know that's it. We are asking somebody to open these doors to a complete stranger. We need to make them comfortable for doing so. Okay, the third step is increase your contribution margin. Contribution margin, once again, is the difference between your sales minus your variable costs. There are ways to improve your fixed costs, particularly now when you have a lot of businesses closing down. I've got a lot of advice that I want to talk to franchisees about reducing your fixed costs. When I was a supervisor, I noticed that there was a huge common area maintenance thing that I could remedy. There's lots of things you can do, but this is geared towards general managers, and I want you to focus on the things that you can control. Obviously, the biggest elements of that are food and labor, okay? So we're going to talk about that, food. We've obviously, I don't want to spend too much time talking about food because we have posted a lot of videos about that already, but I will say this. Frank Meeks used to say you have to pay the cost to be the boss. He heard it in some rap song or something like that. I would actually change that a little. I'm always hesitant to say, when the greatest franchisee of Domino's history says something, I'm always hesitant to change it at all. And by the way, most of what you see in these videos, I stole from Frank. But I will say this, I would say invest the cost to be the boss. Take the time to calibrate your employees' hands. You want to get to the point where they know when they're topping a pizza or topping cheese, they know from not only from looking at the pizza, but from it being in their hands whether they have the correct amount. It's one of the reasons why when people top half toppings, they generally overtop it because their muscle memory is used to grabbing a certain amount of sausage or onions or green peppers or whatever. Get them to the point where they know that and monitor it, okay? Monitor it. If you're over on cheese, which is right now the biggest expense in terms of food costs for pizza places, make sure that every single person who ever puts cheese on a pizza cheeses a pizza with the scale reversed to the point where they think it's perfect, and then you turn the scale around. Educate them. Invest the time so everybody's cheesing appropriately. Track your other toppings. Oh, we're putting too much chicken on the pizza. Oh, we're putting this. Put a red straw in the make line where the chicken is to make people, just as a reminder, oh, wait a minute, I have to, we've been over topping chicken. Let me weigh out a couple of these. Here's an idea. No matter how familiar you are, weigh out every topping on the first 5 pizzas that you make during the day. Get yourself to the point, invest the time so everybody knows exactly how much goes on every pizza all the time. Track that food cost, and also be smart about ordering. A lot of food cost overages are because of wasted food, okay? You're ordering too much on things like onions, green peppers, mushrooms, salads, bread, stuff that has shelf life of less than a week. Pay a lot of attention into your average usage and order very tight. If you have to ask your supervisor because you're a little low on mushrooms or something like that to bring it, I'm sure they'll be fine. You should never run out of pepperonis or sausage or soda or anything like that. If you have to throw food out, you're wasting food. If you have to go get food because you run out, you're wasting labor because you're paying somebody to go get it. Now you can say, oh, well, I went and got it. Well, okay, but you had to pay somebody to be in the store while you went and got the food. So it's still not okay. So pay attention to your food ordering and then pay attention to your food topping. Okay? So that actually, I can see from the PowerPoint, which I haven't been following, that was number B. So let's go, number B, letter B. Let's go to number A, which is focus on getting more out of the customers. Upselling. Upselling. You know, my first store, it did $5,800 in week 1. And it was 20-something% positive. The next week we did 6,300 or something. It was like 38% positive, something like that. I've got it written down in the sales building manual. We had a store that started out at 6,000, and I worked my way to, I think the record week was 8,800 or something. I worked my way, got the store to 13,000, eventually got promoted. But what was unique about that store, which was Aspen Hill, Maryland, if anybody's curious, is that I was able to run between 20 and 25% profit doing sales that were that low. And, labor was low. I don't recommend anybody working the hours I worked, and you probably shouldn't be running 20% profit if you're doing 8,000, 9,000 a week or 10,000 even. But I was doing other things. I didn't have extra staff, that's for sure. But the main reason why my labor was so low was because of the fact that I probably answered 80, maybe 75% of the calls over the course of a week personally. And I was great at upselling. So think about what you're doing when you're upselling. You're increasing the sales, right? They're not just getting a pizza, they're getting sodas or sides. You're increasing your profit dollar like we're talking about. Why? Well, let me ask you a question. How much money do you think Domino's Pizza makes on a full price large pepperoni pizza, which is the most common pizza we have ordered? I'll give you a minute to guess. I can tell you that when I do new employee orientation, I always ask everybody there. And I'd say if I took the average of everybody's guess over the years, it would probably be $4. The answer is 72 cents. Generally, if you're getting the offer on TV, we're not making money at all. You know, you'll hear a term that's used in Domino's as middle margin, which is essentially just food cost minus sales. That's not profit, because you have to pay the person to answer the phone, you have to pay the person to make the pizza, you got to pay the person to deliver pizza, you got to pay mileage, you know, you've got all kinds of fixed costs that are in there. But let me ask you a question. You paying the person on the phone more to upsell those sodas or their sides? Are you paying the pizza maker more, maybe a cent or two, the labor in terms of making it? Are you paying the delivery driver more? No. Are you paying the delivery driver more mileage because they're also delivering bread twists? No, you're not. So just make this simple. If you are a terrible manager, this is the one step you can make to make people think you're great until you become great. Make sure that nobody in your store says either of these two phrases after the customer orders pizza. Anything else? Or is that all? Those are not upselling. Those are telling the customer that you want to get off the phone. Upsell things. Would you like any icy cold Coke? Would you like hot, delicious bread twists? Would you like to treat yourself to one of our delicious hot desserts? That's upselling. You can make up for so much by just being good at upselling. Okay, and now we're going to talk about labor. Labor is easy. You just have to master the 3 levels of scheduling. You can see it here. That's matching, monitoring, and cutting. We're going to talk about those real quick. Matching. With Domino's, it's the hourly average sales report, not the hourly actual sales report, the hourly average sales report. It gives you the average amount of orders. This gives you a lot, but the 2 things you should focus on when scheduling: the average amount of orders and the average amount of deliveries. The average amount of orders tells you, and what I have all my managers do is print the entire entire report out, and it gives you every single hour for the course of the entire week. When you make your schedule, you should always have it in front of you. Go by and say to yourself, okay, this hour I average this many orders. How many employees do I need to make those orders? This hour I average this many deliveries. How many drivers do I need to deliver this many deliveries in an hour? Go through the entire thing. Write your insiders, write your delivery people, and then make your schedule that way. That's easy. Now, is there a chance you could make your schedule that way and run labor that's not great? Yes, and here's why. Because there's 2 other factors. Number 1, monitoring. If employees are coming in before they are scheduled and punching in, you're paying them. So it won't match the ideal. You have figured out how many employees you need, and now you have an employee that you don't need on the clock. So monitor it. Now, when you look at the P&L that I showed you, we had computers then, but that's the kind of profit that I ran always when I was a manager. And there's a lot of people that are watching this that knew me when I was a manager, and they can speak up if they think that's not true. When I was a manager, I used to keep, there weren't computers, so I would keep time cards in my back pocket. I would make sure that the employee was in perfect uniform, and then I'd look up at the clock to make sure that they're scheduled, and then I would give them the time card to drop in the thing and punch in. You need to get as close to that as you can with whatever system you have, so monitor it. Then the other end of that is cutting. Let's say you're a general manager and you're opening. When you leave, I know you want a mental break. You want to leave it behind, watch House of Dragon or whatever it is when you get home. And I get that. But take the time to give the person running the shift a cutting schedule, particularly if it's somebody who doesn't necessarily have a big incentive to run great labor. they obviously would prefer more employees in the store because then they can get out of the store easier and they have to do less work. Give them a cutting schedule. Okay, look at the hourly average sales report. This person needs to be, you know, we need to cut here, we need to be down this many insiders, this many drivers, and here we need to be down to this many insiders and this many drivers. So match your business needs with your schedule. You can always tell if a manager's bad. Let's say the store opens at 10 and closes at midnight. If all of the day shift is scheduled at 10, and all the night shift is scheduled at 5 or 4 and 5, but their high delivery hour or high business hour is 6:30 to 7:30. That's just being lazy. So match your needs, your schedule to your needs. Make sure that's when people are actually punching in, and then monitor the cutting as well. People forget about the cutting. This is not instructional, so we give, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we give you shout outs, and a lot of people requested things, not necessarily profit, but they requested elements that are in this video. Let me also say, if you've requested a shout out and I forgot about it, hey man, I'm getting up there in age. If I forgot about it, don't hesitate to put it in the comments. I'd like to thank Nerd Outbreak. Nerd Outbreak has commented on several videos and is really improving their game by watching it. And they suggested one on marketing, and we did talk about that. Later on, we'll do one just on marketing. There's a YouTube user, ROJAAR. Her father's name is Roger, and she wants a shout out to her father, Roger. He loves Domino's Pizza, and he loves these videos, and so it'd be nice for me to say, hey, Roger, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Banana Pie Lord. I'm so glad Banana Pie Lord requested a shout out just because I love that name, but they've also had some pretty interesting comments. Dream Team Pizza in Grain Valley, Missouri. One of your employees requested a shout out, and so we're giving it to you here. So we really appreciate it. So if you have any questions, please make them in the comments and I will address those. I am sick of restaurants that I like going out of business. Let's make some money and keep them in business. Thanks.